The truth occurs. The truth occurs.
Hi everyone. Well, I'm sure you've seen those reports of people being treated like criminals for growing too many vegetables or growing them on the wrong part of their property or feeding the homeless or letting their chicken cross the road. But what disturbs me even more is what looks to me like a general trend towards criminalizing children and ordinary childhood behavior and activities. This kind of stuff seems to be in the news a lot lately. There's a lot of talk right now about the cops shutting down a lemonade stand in Georgia, but this has happened before. Similar case in Montgomery County, Maryland, where children were fined $500 for operating a lemonade stand. And it's not only the little guys and girls selling refreshing summer drinks who are under fire. Oh, how the Girl Scout cookies crumble. Ha ha, very funny. The Girl Scouts, an American institution, they're not allowed to sell cookies without a permit? Can you imagine that? The iconic Girl Scouts being told to pack up shop? Is it still America? Well, I guess it's America, but it's a very changed America. And in the same news report, pencil prank plus students butt equals arrest. Is that supposed to be a funny caption? Because it's really not funny. It's part of something much bigger. An agenda to criminalize children and childhood behavior. When I was in school, in grade school, nobody got arrested and nobody got ticketed. When I went to work as a teacher in an elementary school, I was very shocked to see that the police were actually called to the school 3 times while I was there for only 3 months, 3 or 4 months. What were police doing at an elementary school? 12-year-old girl arrested for writing on her school desk? When I was in school, if you wrote on a desk, which we all did, and got caught, which we often didn't, they would punish you with something like making you clean all the desks. They wouldn't have you arrested, and they wouldn't ticket you, but these days that's the kind of thing they're doing. Especially in Texas, they're keen on ticketing the kids. They ticket elementary students for writing on the desk or cursing in class or disrupting class. And who has to pay for the ticket? The parents. And does it really accomplish anything? Does it help the kid? I don't think so. But arrests, that's pretty serious. I mean, if you treat children like criminals, there's a good chance they'll act like criminals. Black girl arrested and assaulted for dropping a piece of cake at school. Police brutality. Of note, the majority of the victims of this kind of policy are racial minority students, African American and Latino. 5-year-old girl arrested. Notice she's African American. So what's going on here? This is all part of something much bigger known as the school to prison pipeline. As the ACLU explains, the school to prison pipeline refers to the national trend of criminalizing rather than educating our nation's children. And here's a PowerPoint presentation that explains it more. Well, the school to prison pipeline, and I'll give you the link. Mainly it's minorities, especially African American students who end up being on the receiving end of this. So often what happens is that the students are misdiagnosed as having learning disabilities, behavioral problems, or special needs, and they're kind of stigmatized. Also, when they do have special needs, they're not given any kind of real help. They're just sort of criminalized. And so they go from being treated like criminals in schools to either dropping out and then becoming criminals a lot of the time, or they go from being in schools, being treated like this, given tickets, to then being transferred to schools that are for delinquents, that are kind of like, kids' prisons. And then what do you think happens to them when they get out of there? They go on to adult prisons. Whether it's foster care or it's juvenile detention or whatever, all the system does is marginalize you and institutionalize you. I mean, if you think that there's pressure in a regular school to be a badass, what do you think it's like in a special school or a juvenile detention center? And kids who come out of the system, they're not properly socialized. They also have very negative beliefs about themselves. And if you spend your teenage years in an institution for juvenile delinquents or something like that, you're used to being around people like that. Who are you going to feel comfortable with when you come out? the kind of people that you're used to being around. But probably the worst thing that this does is it teaches the children to feel like criminals from the time they're very young. If you tell kids that they're bad and you treat them like criminals, there's a good chance that they'll end up living up to those labels. They have to go through metal detectors at school. Sometimes the police show up with drug dogs and do a raid on all the lockers. They've even done terrorism drills. It's like they're really teaching them to feel like it's normal to be in a police state. It's normal to be treated like criminals. And of course, kids don't like to be treated like this, so what better way to turn them off school? I mean, if you want to jack up the dropout rate, treat kids like crap at school so they won't want to go there. They collect money when they ticket, and they fabricate money when they, have their budgets for special need kids. They get a certain allotment of cash for that. So the more special needs stuff that they need, the more money they get. And if they don't have a certain quota of kids met, they'll get less funding the next year. So it's kind of to the state's advantage to have as many screwed up kids as possible, from a budget point of view, not from society's point of view. And the worst aspect of all this is stuff like this. 8th grader executed for scaring a cop. This boy was shot by a cop. The cop had seen him punch another kid at a bus stop and chased him down and shot him. The kid was unarmed and the cop got away with it. I mean, he wasn't really held responsible. He just had his duties changed. He got away with it. There seems to be a lot of accountability on the part of the kids. I mean, they got to pay all those tickets or they go to jail, but not so much on the part of the cops. But this is the new system. Everyone's a criminal, including the kids, and the cops can pretty much do whatever they want to deal with those criminals. In school and out of school, people are being treated like criminals, and it doesn't seem to matter how old or how young they are. It's like one big ongoing psyop. So overall, I would have to conclude that it really is a conspiracy to make our children feel like criminals so that they act like criminals, so that the state can get more money for their special needs and criminal budgets, and so that the private prisons can make more money off, these young offenders. Well, either that or it's just complete incompetence. Well, leave me your comments on what you think would be a solution, or at least a solution on an individual level. Because I really don't know, but I don't like it. Well, thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.